Konnichiwa minasan. Kyo desu. So a few of you have actually asked me what's my thoughts on marijuana or cannabis or other known as weed, and should it be legalized in Japan? And so I figured I'd make a video explaining my thoughts and viewpoints on marijuana. So my worldview is that I believe that plants are a creation of God that has many benefits, especially medical benefits for humanity. Many medicines and breakthrough cures have come through plants. And I believe plants in themselves are not bad for human use. My issue with cannabis is more of what's the purpose for using it. It is true that cannabis used legally as medicine helps a lot of people, especially I know a lot of people with seizures who've used medical cannabis, and it's actually helped them to not have, really a lot of spasms, and it's helped them with their medical issues. And I don't have a problem with that if it's used medically. However, I do feel and I believe that many people who are championing for weed to be legalized completely in America and probably Japan too are more people who just want to smoke cannabis to get high and smoke blunts. And for me, the one thing that I personally don't like is when you're not sober-minded. I think when you're under the influence of any other substance besides you or your mind, or if you're not sober, you're controlled by another substance, or you're controlled by something else that's not you. As we know that many people tend to act different when they're drunk, people tend to act different when they're high, or they're like high off drugs or any kind of drug, not just weed. And me personally, I don't think it's good for people to be controlled by a substance or have their body altered by a substance. Even if it's medication that's given to you by your doctor, if you're overly reliant on a drug to make you feel better or to gain pleasure, I think that's a problem. It's the same reason why I don't drink as much and I don't smoke cigarettes or I don't smoke weed, because I want to be sober-minded. I don't want anything other than myself to make decisions for me. And I've heard countless stories of, especially in America, of drunk drivers, people wilding out at parties because they're drunk. We all heard of like women who get drunk and they don't know who they slept with. We all knew people who got so high out their mind, and they're driving while high and there's accidents with that. And I also find that many people who smoke weed also end up taking other drugs. People start taking mushrooms, people start taking, pills or Molly or other substances to increase that high. Because after smoking weed for a while, it takes a lot more to get zooted or to get high, because you're building a tolerance for it. And though many people say that weed is not really addictive, I've seen many people in my life, and I don't know the studies of it, but just my anecdotal evidence is that many people are addicted to weed. They can't function without being high. They need to be smoking a blunt at least once a day. And how I believe there was a study that said that if you can't go 90 days without doing that one activity, you're addicted. Whether that's masturbation, whether that's smoking cigarette, whether it's weed, alcohol, if you can't go 90 days without doing that, whatever habit you have, then you're officially addicted. And I also find that stereotypes exist for a reason. Many people who tend to be avid weed smokers, weed makes you more relaxed, you're not as ambitious, you're very nonchalant, you don't want to do anything, and that's why we get the stereotypes of stoners tend to be people who don't really do much with their life. They just go in their home, play video games, smoke weed all day, don't really do much. And even though I'm not saying if you smoke weed, you have to be this lazy person who's not motivated to do anything. However, when you're often very medicated, it alters you a lot. And as we've seen an increase in depression and suicide and unhappiness in America, we're also heavily medicated. A lot of people are overdosing on drugs, heroin, opioids. They make heroin legal in the state of Oregon, which is crazy, and it's like we're becoming a culture that's addicted to altering substances. Like, pornography addiction has increased, weed addiction has increased. There's a problem with addiction that we have in America. And I believe a lot of that is associated with the state of depression. And people being unhappy and people trying to find some kind of medium to make them feel good, or for them to, erase the pain of their everyday life. Now, as far as Japan, here's the reason why I don't think it should be legalized. However, I will say this: if there's health problems in Japan where cannabis medically can be used to help people, then I don't have a problem with that, because it's something of healing a disease or a condition or something like that. However, I haven't looked up the stats to this, so I could be wrong, but because Japan is known for having high suicide, there's a lot of depression that is happening in Japan. And me personally, I think it's wrong to introduce weed to Japanese people, because though you may be relaxed or it may help you calm down or whatever, I don't think depression and high medication, a lot of medication works good. There's a lot of people who are depressed who are dependent on medications. And imagine if weed was legalized, how many Japanese people would be smoking blunts? And we don't know how that would affect driving. How would that affect school performance? How would that affect the economy? There's going to be a lot of foreigners who are going to try to start a business or some kind of trade in Japan. And we don't know how that will affect the economy. Will it make it better? Will it make it bad? I'm assuming it's going to make it worse, but having majority of people medicated, especially depressed people, and depression is the root problem, and medicating it may help you for a while, but the problem is you're still depressed. I'd rather someone have a better method where they're not depressed anymore, but they're, but instead of relying on a substance to make you feel better. And let's say, for example, that Japan opens their borders and has a mass amount of immigrants. I'm pretty sure if weed was legalized, there'd be a lot of foreigners who will start bringing weed to the not to the United States, but weed to Japan. And there's already been a study, I believe, that said that since Japan opened its borders a bit more and more foreigners have come in, there's actually been more use of cannabis. And it's often said that cannabis is a gateway drug for other drugs. So I'd imagine if you made weed legal and Japanese people start smoking weed a lot more, then they'll be interested in getting even more high, because again, like we said before, the more you smoke weed, the more you're tolerant to it, and the more you gotta smoke to get that high. And that's why you find many people end up moving on to other drugs like mushrooms and opioids and all that kind of stuff to get that same kick that the weed is not giving them anymore, because they're tolerant to it. And I'd imagine that a big drug market will increase. Not saying that there's not one now, but that would definitely increase if the borders are open and if, weed is legalized. I definitely would see a huge increase in maybe illegal drugs. And honestly, when any society is heavily addicted to a medication, heavily addicted to social media, heavily addicted to pornography, masturbation, heavily addicted, and again, I'm not saying this is all people who smoke weed, but stereotypes exist for a reason. Many people who smoke weed are not doing really anything productive with their lives. And there might be some, they probably are most likely the outlier. And many people who smoke weed tend to be people who are lazy, who are unmotivated, because really it ruins your motivation. It's the same way when you masturbate a lot, you're for men at least, you're releasing your seed, and that testosterone is actually what motivates you, it gives you energy. And if you're constantly masturbating as well, you're giving away your energy as a man, because testosterone is what makes you want to go out and conquer the world, to go to talk to women, makes you want to chase your dreams and ambitions. And when you're constantly in a state of relaxation, you don't want to do anything. And I think with Japan's problem with, men already and people dying in their homes by themselves and depression, I don't think bringing in marijuana to smoke as a blunt would help that condition. But that's what I think. But I really want to know what you guys think. So please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Also hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. ありがとうございます。みんな、気をつけて。